Hello and welcome to lesson number 4 of how to read music. And in today's lesson we're going to go through sheet music. And what you will discover is what is music score, that there is a step-by-step process, and yes, as above, as in music score, what is manuscript paper. So music score and sheet music. Well, why should we have sheet music? Well, sheet music is an opportunity for the composer to expand the audience. It's a way for the composer to get the ideas from their head and write it down, just like an author will write down on pen and paper their stories and the plots and everything that they have going on in their head that they want to share with other people. It's the same thing, but it's a composer of music. They've got the ideas of how they want a piece of music to sound, the notes going here and there, the highs and the lows, dynamics. And the sheet music is an opportunity for the composer to write everything down on the and create their own music score. That way, other musicians can then pick up the sheet music and play the piece of music. They can play it for lots of other people. They can get feedback from other people and more exposure. So, what is a composition? Well, a composition is a step-by-step instruction from the composer on what he wants the musician to play on the instrument. So imagine as if the composer was like a world-famous cook. And well, if you're in New Zealand, you can think of Alison Holst. She's created quite a few cookbooks. So Alison Holst is creating she's got ideas in her head of how she likes cooking, and she's sharing it with the world. So she's written her recipe books, and then in the recipe books she has given instructions. So in the recipe she lists down the ingredients, exactly what sort of food items do you need to have for the thing that you're cooking, and then she'll give directions, like method or directions of how you go preparing the recipe. So once you've got the food items, what do you do with them? Like, do you mix them in what order? Do you cook them, and for how long and what temperature? So it's the same thing like a composer. The composer has got in their head how they want a piece of music to sound. They will then write it down on manuscript paper. So we'll go into that, and we'll go into that. So they will write it down, and once it's written down, that will be what we call the sheet music or music score. And then any other person can just look at the piece of music, and they'll have the directions. So they'll have the notes there that the composer has written down for us to follow, but not just the notes. The composer will have given directions, musical directions. So he will have told us how we want to play the piece of music. So not just the notes to play, but how he wants us to express ourselves as we play it. Does he want it to be really soft? Does he want it to go gradually faster? Does he want it to suddenly stop there, or have short staccato movements and things like that? So who is going to read the sheet music? Well, it's going to be anyone who wants to learn to play a new piece of music. Anyone who wants to sing, whether it's as a solo or in a group, such as a choir. So anyone who wants to be able to play somebody else's musical creation. So I referred before that it is a step-by-step process, and we'll start from the beginning. We're going to have manuscript paper, music signs in the next lesson, and music notation in the lesson after that. So we're going to start off by creating our own manuscript paper. Manuscript paper is simply a series of ledger lines, and ledger lines are exactly 5 lines. And if you create 5 horizontal lines, one above each other, then this is what we call a staff. And if you have 2 staffs, one stacked on top of each other, we then call that a stave. And then let's go through the ledger lines. So ledger lines are individual horizontal lines that go across the page from left to right, and the composer writes his music directly onto the ledger lines. And you'll see, I referred before that there were 5 lines for the staff. So we draw 5 lines, and in the lines you can draw your notes. And notes are just simply circles. So you can put a circle either on the line, or you can write a circle in between the lines, which is what we call the space. So you'll have 5 lines, and then you'll have the spaces, 4 spaces in between the lines, and then of course spaces either side of outside the lines as well. And it's the ledger lines, like the lines going up and down, that give us an indication of the pitch. because as we start, like if you number the lines from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and number 1's the bottom, as you go higher up the leisure line, so as you go higher up, you're actually increasing your pitch. So it doesn't really matter whether you're at the very bottom. Say we're using the piano as an example. So if you're at the very bottom of the piano, or whether you're already at the top, regardless of where you are within the piano, as you go up the leisure lines, you will be increasing your pitch. So whether it's from really low to just not quite so low, or whether you're already high and you're just going that slightly a bit higher. So the staff is what we call a group. So once we've got a group of the 5 lines together, then we've got a staff. And one set of those 5 lines is what we call a staff, and that's singular. So a staff is just simply one set of the 5 leisure lines. And here we go. So if you look at the picture on the screen, you'll see that I've got 5 lines. I've actually numbered it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the one at the top. But actually, usually, if I'm counting lines, well, that's just to show you that there are 5 lines. But usually, if I'm counting lines with the notes on the lines on the staff, I usually count with the bottom line as number 1, and the line from second from the bottom will be number 2, and that sort of thing. Don't think it really matters, but that's what I would normally do. So I would actually invert it. So I have an exercise for you to do at home. What I would like you to do is to draw your own staff. And it's really fairly simple. You can either use a ruler, if you're a very particular and tidy person, which I don't tend to be. I know they recommend you should have a ruler. So if you have a ruler, then get your ruler out and draw 5 lines with your ruler. But if you don't have a ruler, it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't tend to bother with a ruler. I just draw 5 lines, and it doesn't matter. I don't mind that it's not exactly even. But yes, get a blank piece of paper out, draw 5 lines on your piece of paper, and then what have you created? You've created your very own staff. So over the next 5 days, I'd like you to at home draw your own staff, and then take bonus points. Take a photo of the staff you've drawn and post it into the private members Facebook group, so I can see what you've done. Now next, we're going to go on to the staff, and the staff is simply 2 lots of staffs. So as I said before, a staff is one set of 5 lines, and if we've got a staff, we've got 2 sets, so it's plural. So you have 2 sets of the staff. So you've got 5 lines, and then just below that, or just above, you've got another set of 5 lines. Now next, we're going to go through the Grandstaff. Now, in order to create the Grandstaff, you have to first of all have a staff, and you know the staff is a set of 2 staffs. Yes, that's a bit of a tongue twister. I think I'm going around in circles here, but I'll just read out to you what I've written on the screen. When you have a set of staff, one upon the other, so when you've got one staff stacked upon the other, then we have what we call the Grandstaff, and that's when the staffs are connected together with a vertical line. And we call that vertical line the bar line. And then if you put a bracket to the left of that bar line, then which is called a brace, that's when you have your staff, Grandstaff. So in order to create your Grandstaff, what you need to do is you need to draw your 5 leisure lines. So you've got one staff. Above that, draw another set of 5 leisure lines. You've got 2 sets of staffs now. So you've now got a staff. So now you want to create a Grandstaff. So what you need to do is connect the top staff to the bottom staff by drawing a vertical line from the top of the staff down to the bottom of the second staff, and then put a brace on it. And then what have we got? Let's go to the next page. Oh. So what have we got there? If you go to the next page, we have got an exercise for you to do. So you can see we've started off with your 2 sets of staffs, and then I've got in blue, I've drawn one line from the top of the first staff to the bottom of the staff below it, and you connect them together with a brace, and then you've got your Grandstaff. So that's pretty simple to do. So it's not going to take you too long to do this. So your next task is to draw a Grandstaff. Make at least 2 drawings. Take a photo of it and upload it to the Facebook group so that I know that you've done the work. Great. So do the work, make it real, draw your ledger lines, draw your staff, and draw the grandstaff. And that's it. You've completed lesson number 4. Congratulations, and I shall see you again in the next lesson. Thank you.